So my name's Chelsea Corley, and my business is the Integrated Teaching System.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an online platform for Pilates instructors to learn more about motor learning theory and how to apply this effectively and easily to their teaching of Pilates.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that sounds like you've rehearsed your elevator pitch a couple of times too.
Yes, just a couple, but because my business consultant
Yes.
has helped me with that, my coach that I have.
Well, you just made her proud. That was pretty slick.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your business consultant for a moment, your business coach, because that's a real piece of our business, right? And I think people neglect that side of it. So, what do you talk with her about? How often do you meet with her? How did you find her? You know what I mean? Like, give me a piece of that as we get into what you do.
Yeah. So my business consultant is Kelly Zafar, and she actually was my neighbor across the street. My dog peed on her flowers, and she got very upset, and that is how we met.
Okay.
And then she became a Pilates client of mine, and we became good friends. And she does this marketing and branding. So she and I work together, and I teach her Pilates, and this is one that I do for free because we trade. So I'll get her branding and marketing strategy. She gets some Pilates out of it, which is great.
Fantastic.
So that's how I found her, which is not the most normal way of finding your business consultant.
Right.
However, she's fabulous, and what I like is she's not in the industry, so she gives me a different perspective. Ways to like structure my business, structure revenue streams, structure different things that maybe I haven't seen before because it's not maybe as prevalent in the Pilates industry, but it's actually prevalent outside of it in other markets and everything. So it's been very, very helpful having someone who is not a Pilates person also be my business consultant.
Absolutely. And I think that's, we were talking about that yesterday too. Having a different lens, a different set of eyes on your business as someone who's in the business really does help make a difference. Yeah, so very cool.
Yeah.
Yes, very smart. So how did you land on motor learning theory then?
So I finished I'm Ramana's Pilates certified, and I was certified in True Pilates in New York City like 10 years ago. And I decided after a couple of years of teaching, I just felt like something was missing. And not that True Pilates didn't set me up for success in learning the exercises and how to teach bodies and anything like that. But I just felt personally that I was running people through choreography, and that if I wasn't there to tell them what to do, they would just not be able to do the exercise. So what was I really teaching them? So that's whenever I decided I needed to learn more, and I felt like there was a missing link. So I applied to Columbia University and got my master's degree in biobehavioral science and motor learning and control from Columbia University in New York City.
Wow.
And
nice.
So, and after that, I realized like this was the missing link that I had been waiting for to understand how to take people to this next level, utilizing Pilates as that modality of fitness.
Yes. You sound like Adam McKay with his whole understanding the value of science and integrating science into Pilates. I love that dialogue coming from the personal training, sport conditioning world. I'm always looking at things from that perspective as well. So for the Pilates instructor who is watching us now, can you do an elevator pitch on exactly what motor learning theory is?
Yeah. So motor learning theory is an interdisciplinary science that encompasses both physiology, neurology, psychology, biomechanics, a bunch of different sciences. But basically, when you boil it down, the most simplistic way to think about it is that motor learning is the science that helps you learn how people learn, refine, and retain movement skills.
Gotcha.
And which is what we kind of do all day long, right? We're
Absolutely.
teaching people movement. So it is directly applicable to what we do on a daily basis as a Pilates instructor.
Right. So this is the stuff I'm going to totally geek out on this right now, because that is the stuff that fascinates me, because we do that without being aware of the fact that we're doing that. So because we're not intentional with that movement, we kind of flounder around with it. We give people stuff and we try it again and we try it again without thinking about how do we actually allow them to get to a place of doing this autonomically, like where it's just like they were like tying their shoe, right? Like if we can't get them to that place, are we actually teaching people?
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly where I was, and that's why I felt like I needed to learn how to adapt myself as a teacher and what I was saying and my cues and my feedback to help elevate the power of Pilates even more than it already, because it's great on its own, but adding this like special sauce of this teaching technique and motor learning theory, I really think it helps enhance teaching people rather than like what Tara just said, teaching people versus teaching just the exercises.
Yes, right, exactly. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. I think we need to always like be evolving that way. So how do we like, let's talk about the cueing part of it. So how, exactly what does that mean on a practical sense of like, what would be a different cueing that I would use being mindful of this approach as opposed to the way we've traditionally learned it?
Yeah. So there's a ton in the research about this, and there's new stuff always coming out. But my thesis in college, or not college, in my master's degree, was about feedback. So this is like where my wheelhouse is.
Okay.
So what I find interesting, it is what you're saying, but it's also how much are you saying.
Okay.
So if you are constantly cueing somebody and giving them the prompt, and then all the time and just cueing that choreography, if you were to say, okay, go and do the 100, my clients used to stare at me like a deer in headlights, like what exercise? But they've done it 100 times, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
it's something in the research that's called the guidance hypothesis.
Okay.
So this means that people fall victim to following your guidance. If you give them so much feedback, they become reliant and they hang on your every word. So therefore, they're not able to transfer what you're saying, apply it to their body, and then have to be able to retrieve it. So part of the learning process is someone has to retrieve what you're saying and directly apply it without having an external cue telling you what to do.
Yes.
And that is the part that we're missing whenever we're
Yes,
talking
I'm just
all
thinking,
the time, right?
yeah, exactly. I'm thinking, where's Joel Crosby when we need him? Because he would be like, yes, full caps in the caption, because he's all about that. Like that's that very that's the mind body part of it, right? Like where you can stand there, arms crossed, and be like, okay, 100, roll up, leg circles,
right,
and just wait for them to figure it out.
right. And I think it's painful for Pilates teachers sometimes because we want it to be, I know I felt like for me to be a good teacher, I had to say like all the things and feel like I had to say everything to make that person look like they were doing the exercise perfectly.
Yes.
But it's not what it looks like. It's what the person is feeling and how they're able to go through that spectrum of the learning process. And that's more so specifically what I learned.
Yes.
And it's been very helpful because it's not my job to make that person and make them perfect in that exercise, but we want them to experience the movement that they experience movement in their own way, right?
In their own way,
everyone's different.
Yes, right. Well, I think of the way that I learned Pilates at different points in my kind of path here. And one of the very first people that taught me Pilates, and I did a certification course with them, had a very, for lack of better words, sing-songy type of teaching style, because they were a dancer and all these different things. So when I heard them teaching, I was there because I wanted to learn it for my own body, my own personal interest. But because of the way it was being taught, I was like, I will never teach Pilates because I can't do it like that. I don't have that da 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 da. I don't have that dancey, singy. That's not me.
Right.
And I fast forward a few years, I took another course, and the person was almost militant, and they talked a lot about, in a good way, in a sense. It sounds weird to say militant in a good way, but compared to this sing-songy person, it was really like roll up, sit up, legs out, and begin, like sort of thing where. She talked a lot about the economy of words, and that I really grasped that. And I was like, okay, I can totally teach it now because that made sense to me. Just give them give them just enough that they can start moving and understand what you want from them.
Right.
And when it was
Right.
taught to me in that way, it made more sense than hearing that. And that's just my personality because I'm like, I can't sing, so I'm not going to sing for you to teach a class. So, but when this person was like that, it's like that economy of words is a word I've used so many times because that made so much sense to me. Like, how can I get people moving with as few words as possible and let them understand exactly what I want?
Right. Right. We have to set, that's exactly right.
Clarity.
In the, yes, clarity. In the research, you can see that the more specific feedback you give the client over time, the more they're going to be able to reproduce what you want them to. So you have to set the stage and expectations. They need to know what you're expecting of them to do.
Yes.
So in the beginning, you're obviously, when they're a beginner, like, and I mean beginner as a beginner learner, not just a beginner exercise, right? So like,
Yes.
I'm an advanced Pilates person, but if someone has me doing candlestick and I haven't done it in forever, they're going to have to walk me through it, right?
Yes.
But so beginner, what I mean is just beginner is more on a spectrum of like a learning spectrum, not necessarily
Yes.
exercise.
Right.
But they need more feedback. But what we have to do is there's a specific way in the research, which is very interesting, on how you can actually reduce your feedback in a way that is more effective for clients to be able to learn and retain movement.
Okay.
So that there's three different feedback reduction models, but that's how you get people off of this guidance hypothesis situation of hanging on to your every word. And it gives you as a teacher time to have space and like be quiet, like be in silence, like a liberating thing. And then you can really view and watch your clients. So then you actually know what you need to correct, and what you say then actually really matters,
Right.
rather than just saying something to fill in some silence.
Well, I think you're appealing to our maturity as people when you say those things, because it feels good to have someone hanging off my every word. It is scary to have dead silence in a room and everyone's staring at me like, what's next?
Right.
So that's when we put in our ums and ahs, and you know what I mean? It's like those are like maturity things from us from the inside out that we need to deal with to be able to get to that place as well.
That's a very good point. I never really thought of it that way, but that is a very good point.
Yeah, sorry, that's my counseling side coming out there.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Brooks' comment here. Yes, I reviewed that this week with an apprentice, working on getting comfortable with silence. Yes, so I have my master's degree is in marriage and family therapy and counseling, and then I went into the Pilates world, and there's a long story behind that. But that, you know, that iteration, what's the word I'm looking for? The relationship of working with people interpersonally, silence is one of the things we've had to deal with a lot, because you get in a situation where you want to use silence. Silence can be powerful. That gives people time to reflect. In business, silence is great. Like, you present a price for something, you want to give them silence to figure out if they want to purchase it or not before you talk yourself out of a sale. Like, there's a lot of applications for silence, but it's still scary.
It is scary. But I think the way, at least with my clients, I tell them in the beginning, in the research, like, silence is actually can be used as an implicit form of feedback. So my clients know I say, if I'm not saying anything, keep on going. You're doing great.
That's
So
good.
they know
That's really
that
good.
my silence means that they're doing a rocking job and they should just keep on doing what they're doing, because I have nothing to correct, because they're fine.
Yes. I think I need to open with that, because sometimes people, like, they stop as soon as you stop talking. Like what was wrong? Right? You know, so that's a good line.
Yeah.
That's a good, yeah. I can take that one.
Then it gives you a break too as a teacher, because your client's more on the same page, I think, as you, knowing that, okay, they're being quiet because they're watching me. They know that I'm doing a good job. I should just keep on doing what I'm doing. And it gives them a little bit of confidence too, that they can do it on their own.
Absolutely.
And they're not just having you guide them through everything that they're doing. And that's where the true learning really does occur.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the line that Lori Coleman Brown uses. Like, she just says, like, she lets people move, then pounce.
Yep.
Move, pounce, right? Like, there's a sense of just like letting people know that you're great, you're on pace, go ahead, hold on a second, let's change that, and go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. I think she knows her stuff.
I think she does too.
Yes. How did you find Pilates?
So I was certified. Well, actually, I found Pilates when I was really young. I was like 13 or 14 when I found Pilates. And I'm originally from Connecticut, and so I studied with Mijo Wiggin,
Mm-hmm.
and I also studied with Caroline Benton. So they were my first teachers, and I had a hip issue as a dancer, and they were like, you should definitely get certified. And I was like, okay.
Okay.
So sure. So as soon as I graduated high school, I enrolled for Romana's Pilates. So
Mm-hmm.
I would go every single summer in between college to finish like my basic and my intermediate
Okay.
and my advanced. So it took me a long time to finish, but so that's how I found Pilates was just because I was a dancer and I had a bad hips.
Yeah.
But it was very, I mean, obviously it was very, very helpful for me to learn how my body needed to move through space.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. And you've just been teaching. Have you been in the corporate sector and all those different
Yeah.
things? Okay.
Yeah. So no, but I used to manage the Pilates department for Equinox in the DC area.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I was the Pilates manager there.
Mm-hmm.
When I moved to DC, I've worked at other private Pilates studios, but no, since after college, I finished my Pilates certification. Then I went to graduate school, and then I moved to DC, and that's where I am now. I'm in the
Yeah.
DC area, but so now I have my own home studio now.
Okay.
I've left Equinox, but I have my own home studio, and then I have my true passion project of the integrated teaching system, to bring everything that I learned from my graduate degree
Yes.
to make it applicable for other instructors to help them with their teaching too.
Very cool. So now with the integrated teaching systems, is that all online, or did you do live workshops pre-COVID type thing too, or?
So it's all online actually. And this was before COVID too.
Very cool.
So it was originally always online because I wanted everyone to be able to have access to it.
Yes.
My one main course, which is What You Say Matters, which is based off of my thesis. So it
Mm-hmm.
talks about this guidance hypothesis that we talked about, the feedback reduction methods, but even though it's an online course, it's very interactive. So it's a 6-week course. Each week you get dropped different motor learning content with research articles that you can read, homework assignments.
Yeah.
But the homework assignments are, you film yourself teach throughout the course. So you can track your progress as a teacher and see how your teaching and your cueing has changed and you've grown over the 6 weeks.
Wow.
And I'm very interactive with you throughout the course.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting a new cohort of it on November 20th.
Okay.
Of this year for the last hurrah of 2020 of it.
Mm-hmm.
But for this cohort, what we're going to do is we're going to add a Zoom call for everybody so that
Amazing.
All of the participants can really collaborate and learn together, because I think
Yes.
it's just so important to hear different perspectives and different people and how different people process the information and how they're applying it. So I'm really excited about that addition to the course for this. For this cohort.
Yeah. Tara says it's all right too.
Yes. Tara
Highly recommended. Yeah. That's awesome. And so this in cohorts too. So it's not like I could sign up today and just like do the course at my own leisure. Like it's set start date and.
So I have 2 options. So I'm doing the cohort because I thought that it would be nice to have this just collaborative response and just see, because a lot of teachers who've gone through it, they missed that part of it of connecting with other Pilates teachers. But I do have an on-demand version too. So you can go and sign up, and as soon as you sign up, the content will be drip fed to you weekly, and you can take as much time as you need with it. So I have both options because I recognize that.
So well thought out.
Thank you.
See, people, this is what I'm talking about. People like know what they're doing. They got their business savvy Pilates hats on at the same time. Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
But it took a while to get there, but that's where I needed help. And I reached that my business consultant, she helped me a ton with it, and I think that it's okay to not know it all, right? Like I don't know everything about all the business side of it by any means, but she's just been it's just great to fill up your team with people who can help you. So I do advise people to seek consult, you know what I mean, outside of our field. It's
Absolutely.
really helpful.
Outside of our field. Well, yeah, okay, so can you talk, you said like it hasn't been easy. So like real talk, like
Mhm.
what have been some of the challenges? How long have you started this? When was it just an idea and when did it materialize? Like I'm jumping out of the boat and we're doing this.
So, I decided to leave Equinox a couple years ago, and I was like, okay, I'm going to open a home studio out of my home. So I did that, and I was like, okay, this is great. But then I realized that all of my clients had followed me, and if you're not familiar with the DC area, like traffic's awful, right? It's just horrible. But there's like all three different states. So I'm in Virginia. People from Maryland were still coming to drive and almost 45 minutes to come still see me out of my house. And I'm like, there has to be a reason why this is happening. Like,
Yeah.
obviously people, I mean, it's not that they just want to hang out with me because I'm fun. I mean, yes,
Mhm.
but not, but
That's
like
probably
they're
true, but
definitely, yeah, but they're getting something out of it, right? So what is that?
Mhm.
So I was like, it has to be this difference of me applying this all this motor learning theory, right? This teaching technique, because these people are seeing this value, they're seeing progress,
Yep.
they're referring clients. I had huge retention. So I wanted that for other instructors. So
Mhm.
that's when I decided, I was like, well, I could do an online course. And so I took my thesis and I broke it down and I applied it into all of the very specific Pilates concepts that we needed and applied it. And I did
Yes.
filming and I just kind of taught myself, which was hard, on how to do all the technical side of everything.
Yes.
But I did it, and
There you go.
yeah, and I started that. It launched in 2019, so
Mhm.
about this time last year. Tara was one of the first people to actually go through it.
Okay.
Yeah, which was great. So that it's been a year. I feel like the other challenging part of it is a lot of Pilates teachers, the feedback I've gotten is that they feel they already do these things in their teaching, but
Yes.
but the people who've gone through the course and they've watched themselves teach, they didn't even realize what they were saying. So
Right.
it's I think it's really, I think as teachers, as Pilates people, we often go and take lessons for our own bodies, and we go and do also continuing education on more exercises,
Right.
but seldom do we really kind of take a step back and reflect on like how we're communicating as a teacher, and not just about what exercises are we giving somebody, but how can we
Yes.
actually adapt ourselves to be more effective.
Well said. And that is the challenge of people understanding the value of the course that you're presenting because everyone thinks that they got this already.
Right. And then whenever they go through the course, it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was doing all of these things. And now their confidence has improved as a teacher. I've gotten comments that their confidence has improved as a teacher. Their
Mhm.
clients are retaining so much more movement and
Yes.
progressing much faster. And their job feels less stressful too, because they
Yes.
don't have to, their clients are seeing progress. Their retention rate's better with their clients. They're having a bigger book of business and holding on to it. And
Right.
especially through this pandemic situation, which has been interesting. Um, all of these concepts that are in my course, but are just in motor learning in general too, are about verbal feedback, and that's all we can kind of use right now. So
Yes.
um, the people who have taken the course have really been able to still thrive during this pandemic, also with their teaching, which is great to see and hear from them.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, that sounds like a great investment in your craft to do that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
people can go and spend 2 years of their life and go to Columbia and learn all the and
Yeah.
learn everything that I learned in the course. But basically, I boil it down and try to make it as easy as possible. You know what I mean? As more applicable as possible for
Right.
people, because I think
That's
it's just so important.
right. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, I really like that. The yeah, I think that's exactly it. Like having more access to those kind of things. Like Adam also, just to quote him again, Adam McCady, who came on, who applies
Mm-hmm.
exercise science guy, was saying if you could do The best thing that Pilates instructors can do right now is not take another Pilates course.
I totally agree with
You
that.
know, and he said it for shock value because he said, obviously, if your friend's coming in town, and you want to hear, Brooke Seiler speak, go hear her speak. But
Of course.
we need to like still sharpen our tools in different ways, add more tools to our toolbox in different ways than just reinforcing like, okay, here's another way to do a roll up. Here's a different way to use a magic circle, right? So,
Right. Right. I feel like there's already 700 exercises. I don't need to remember anymore. It's like, oh my gosh, right? Like
right,
there's
right.
other ways to challenge people or to just change the environment and grow as a teacher with different modalities. I really think it's really important, and it makes you a stronger teacher because you have more to pull
Absolutely.
from than
Yes.
just, and a lot of the times too, like this is why I created the course the way that I did, but um, I always hated when I would go to a CEC course and I would learn these exercises and we get to practice them one time and then I'd leave the course and I was like, oh, what did I learn? Like a
Yeah.
week later.
Yes.
So that's why I made this online course 6 weeks and that
Mhm.
you have homework to practice, because what kind of teaching course would it really be if I didn't make the people have to learn the
Actually
material too?
apply. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I say. Wisdom is the practical application of knowledge, right? Like
Yes.
it's not just acquiring more knowledge. And I think that's why podcasts and workshops and all these different things almost come to a place where they're redundant because we're just becoming obese on knowledge and never actually applying it.
Correct.
And we just
Yeah.
take in one more thing and then one more thing and then one more thing. And we're just like, what do we do with it? Right? We're not even applying it.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Mm.
you're absolutely right. So application is key, and it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to learn like when to apply something or how to apply it. And you have questions, and that's
Yes.
why I think it's really important. That's why like I'm very involved with everyone who goes through these courses, because I want to make sure that they're getting everything that they want to be getting out of it, but
Mm-hmm.
also they're getting everything out of the material and they're able to apply it and be able to see progress for themselves and understand it, because that's the whole point.
Right.
Um,
Right. Exactly. Um, and with that too, I was going to ask, how many men do you have that actually sign up for your courses? Do you have a
so
lot?
so I've had one for the motor learning course specifically. I've had one male sign up, and he was an athletic trainer for Cirque du Soleil, and he's a teacher at in Las Vegas, and he's wonderful. His name's Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
So he went through the course and loved it, but but in terms of like my actual clients that I
Yeah.
teach,
Yeah.
I have a lot of male clients. I
Mm-hmm.
have about like 6 or 7 male clients. So
Yes.
um, I think that this way of communicating with a male client works
Yes.
because they're really able to, it's very clear and concise. It's not flowery. It's not poetic. It's not, it's very much very direct. But
Right.
I think that I don't know, but like
Uh,
the only person I can't really teach is my husband, because that's just hard to teach your spouse.
right. Yes.
Um, but yeah, no, I have a couple of male clients.
I was sitting on my hands before, like I was not gonna say anything about spouses in that moment. I was like, don't talk about your wife, don't talk about your wife. Don't. Yes. Yes.
It is,
Um,
yeah.
yes. Moving on before we get in trouble.
Right.
How's your podcast?
My podcast.
Yeah, do you have a podcast as well? Did I read something about that or
So
okay.
I was on a couple other podcasts.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was on I was on the Pilates Teachers Manual podcast
Yes,
recently,
right, right.
which is great. She has a lot of great teachers on there too, and good conversations, just like what you're doing with this too.
Mhm.
Um, I tried to do a podcast myself, and then I was like, it was too I realized I needed to focus more. I was just giving more ideas and spreading more instead of focusing in on how I needed to connect with my target market audience, right, of
Yes.
instructors.
Hmm.
Um, so I tried,
Hmm.
and I just put a pin on that for now for my own.
That's wise, right? I mean, like a lot of times we do that. We branch out and try to do too many things, and we get too far away from our core, not even necessarily our core values, but like our core concept that we're trying to get out there. What we want people to know about us, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's and in doing this, and for me with this podcast, I feel like that's where I'm trying to shift a lot of focus to, because even though the studio is new, people will come just because it's a studio. People, but I have to spend
Right.
twice as much energy to let people know that there's a podcast out there if I'm going to
Right.
amplify voices like yours out there, right? So
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's very time consuming. I mean, it's
mhm,
important, but it's time consuming. So I realized that I wouldn't be able to do a good job at everything. So
yes,
that's where I was like, I'm gonna wait a little bit for
yes.
that.
And it may be like forever, right? Like it may just like not be what you need to grow your business too, right?
For sure. Yeah. So, and that's where it's like, we have some exciting things coming in like 2021. So like integrated teaching systems going to go through a rebrand for
Okay.
2021, which I've been working on. So we've decided that we're going to encompass all of it. So the studio, my virtual studio, the workshops that we're offering, and then we're going to offer more of like a mentorship also, and that's coming in 2021. So
Fantastic. Yeah.
we're going to do a whole, yeah. So it's better for me to focus my energy on that and focus on how to make it more seamless and a more just a package for it all to just kind of interconnect and make more sense rather than just
Yes.
having everything be so separate. So that's what we've
Right.
been working on also.
Yeah. That's exciting.
Yeah.
So your November course, when does that come up?
So the November, so people can register now. There's a
Right
link
now.
in my bio. If you don't follow Integrated Teaching System yet on Instagram, feel free to do so. And then you can click the link in my link tree, and there's a registration for that. But the actual content will be delivered on November 20th.
November 20th.
So you have
Okay.
up until November 20th to sign up for the course. And I think it's going to be really fun and a real fun group. And it'll be nice to be able to just work and learn from everybody and have more of a collaborative experience than it has been in the past. But
Yes.
if that 6 weeks doesn't work for you, that's okay. You can also do it on demand. I have an option for that as well.
Yeah, that's funny. That's great. I love that you have both set up, right? So there's no excuse, people, to sign up.
That's right. That's right.
just,
That's
just
right.
get it. Just get in there. And we were talking at the beginning about like doing this for free, right? This
Uh-huh.
whole work for free. So my question for you is, who is your ideal client? When we're talking about like from a Pilates perspective,
Yeah.
someone who comes into your studio, who would you like? Who do you love to work with above all? That you would train for free if they came in because you just love everything about the way that whatever it is that is your key values.
Yeah. So, in terms for like teaching Pilates, right? For a
Yep.
Pilates person to come in, I really love working with someone who has like a problem, right? So something that makes it feel like it's a puzzle piece. They've had this pain, or they've had trouble and they can't figure out like how to do these exercises. Or they have a specific, or maybe they have a specific goal outside of the Pilates studio that they want to achieve. Like I had a client,
Right.
and she had her legs reconstructed 3 times, and all she wanted to
Mm,
do was be able to bend down and pick up her kids. And it just broke my heart. And I was like, oh my
wow.
gosh. So like, but
Yeah.
we were able to get her to be able to bend down and pick up her kids. And that was
Yes.
like such a rewarding experience. So people like that, right,
Yes.
who
Yeah.
have a real strict or very set goal and that's measurable and we're able to help them achieve it,
Mhm.
that's all who I'm about.
Yes. I hear you. One of my mentors says podium performance. Like, what is your podium performance? So I may have some guy who's like trying to get the Olympics or maybe trying to win a whatever MVP in basketball or something. That's his podium performance. But for this person, pick up their children is a podium performance. Or for that older aging adult to be able to keep up with his grandkids, that's his podium performance. So someone who comes in who wants that podium performance is that person that makes you come most alive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly who. Because I mean, I think of Pilates as a form of functional movement, and
Mhm.
there's ways to break down the exercises for them to achieve goals that mirror outside of the studio. And
Yes.
I I love helping those people, but I also love the part of the puzzle piece for myself. And how
Mhm.
can I break down these exercises into a more simplistic form? How can I transfer these skills into a way for them to be able to replicate this outside of the studio, still using
Yes.
the classical system and maybe some other contemporary variations.
Hmm.
But I just love that puzzle piece of it, and just really
Yes.
making my brain really have to think. That's the part that I love about our job.
Right. Exactly. So there's a selfish part of it too. Is like you want to stay engaged. You
A
want to
little
be
bit, yeah.
like, yes. You don't
Yeah,
want to just be
yeah,
reciting
because
exercises, right? Like,
yeah, like for me, whenever I had to just teach, um, and I felt like I was just spitting out choreography, that's exactly
mhm,
why I went to
mhm.
go learn more, because I'm like, this is so not for me. Like,
Right.
I I don't feel like I'm actually teaching anybody anything. I feel like I'm just instructing them and telling them what to do.
Yes.
So I'm
Just
not making any lasting change, and
no.
that I didn't that is not what I signed up for when I wanted to become certified. That wasn't in my key values as a teacher. So that's
Right.
why I went and sought something that would help me be able to um, communicate better and to really be true to myself as a teacher.
That resonates with me. I mean, I felt there's times that you said that made me think about the times I felt like all I'm doing is making sure someone doesn't hurt themselves.
Yes, which is important,
But
but
that's when that's your job. Eh,
yeah.
like I can't. I just can't. You know. Yeah. What do you love to do outside of Pilates?
So outside of Pilates, I absolutely love train. This sounds so silly, but training my dog. So my dog Graham is very famous on in my studio.
Okay.
He knows how to close doors. He pushes chairs in. He cleans up his toys by name. He can stack rings. He's very. It's another way of teaching, but it's
Yes.
but we love doing that. It's really fun. But also, I my husband and I, we go hike all the time out in Virginia where we live, and we love to paddle board and anything active.
Yes.
I love we love to do.
Yes. So Tara loves your courses, your hair, and your dog, for the record.
I mean, Tara's just the best.
There you go. No, that's cool. And that's why the reason why I asked that is because we get so inundated with this Pilates world, right? And our businesses and our projects and stuff. It's like that self-care piece. How do we take care of ourselves? There's so many things that are happening in this world. How do we unplug so that we can be present and be available and be sharp when it comes to our people, right?
Yeah. And it's hard. I mean, it's hard, right? It's hard because especially like if you're a solopreneur, right, and you're doing this all on your
Mhm.
own, you don't have a lot of people to delegate anything to. So all day you're dealing with Pilates and doing teaching Pilates or working on your online courses, whatever it may be. I find that I love Pilates and I still do Pilates, obviously, but for my self care, I have to do exercise that is not Pilates because
Yes.
I need a mental break from it
Hmm. Yeah.
so that so that I can be fresher for my class. It just rejuvenates me to be able to do something way outside of the Pilates world to then come back to the Pilates world and be a lot stronger for it.
Yes. I feel you.
Yeah.
The what would you say is like your kind of like your takeaway? If you're like I always ask people what their message is for their people right now, whether it's for your clients or for your students who have signed up for your programs and stuff like that. Like what do you feel is like your main message right now?
That's a great question. Um, I feel like my main message, especially for people who, more so people for who are going through my courses or for those teachers, it's, you know, we were taught in our training programs all the exercises, modifications, things to do, but we weren't taught it all. And that's okay because there's no way that we could be taught it all from
Right.
one training program. So
Mhm.
having an open mind and being able to learn from different modalities, different people, different training programs will
Right.
all make you a better teacher because you'll be more well-rounded. You'll be able to conquer any situation that comes your way because you'll have more strategies on how to do that. So I really think it's important to seek knowledge and seek education outside of the Pilates, world a little bit, right?
Yes.
And to not be afraid to use science to help enhance the power of Pilates that we all know and love.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well said. Very well
Thank
said.
you.
I think that, yeah, I mean, whether it's even maybe sometimes people need a communications course, like, I mean, because you could have all that knowledge up in your head and just can't transfer it in a way,
Right.
right? Like, much like you're saying, like
Right.
cueing. So there's so many different things. There's so many different ways to sharpen our tools that we use. Yes, blossom science is good.
Is good. Science is good. Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. If you guys have any questions for Chelsea, please put it in the comments section. Just there was one of the comments here that Tara wrote earlier. Um, oh yeah, she's just saying how wonderful you are. She'd taken all your continuing ed courses and one of the best there.
Tara's a learner. She loves learning, and she's
Hmm.
taken so many other courses and stuff. So for her to say that ours is great, she's taken a ton. It's very sweet and very huge compliment. So
Amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
There are so many amazingly talented people in our Pilates universe. And
Yeah.
I've had some conversations with people who have absolutely brilliant courses, and they're not people that have like 6 trillion followers. They're just doing a really good job, doing really great work out there. And yeah, and even Cecile just came on here. Like I love what she's doing of just amplifying, Black small businesses and people that has independent businesses. And the more that we can continue to put other people in the spotlight, like it doesn't hurt our business when we're pointing out other people that are doing great work. So
Absolutely.
yeah, keep doing what you're doing. I'm gonna dive deep on all the courses that you're offering and just repost that stuff because I think that people need that. That is definitely a missing link in our space.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think what you're doing and amplifying and just giving a platform for other instructors to get exposure, but also just like meet the community and creating a community
Hmm.
of like-minded people who are open-minded and wanting to learn from different people. I think it's such a important thing that's missing in our industry. And just as Blossom said, lift each other up.
Yes,
Exactly. We really need people to help support us because we're stronger as a unit together and not just I don't know, bashing each other. It's just it's awful, and we really need everyone to just I think come together and just support one another. So
absolutely.
I love what you're doing, and I think that it's awesome.
Thank you. Oh, I appreciate that. And we were talking earlier about like the selfishness to what we do, like not wanting to just like recite exercises and stuff like that. This scratches my itch for getting to meet people and to hear their stories. So yes, it is exposure for you as a business, but it's also a chance for me to just to get to know you,
Yeah,
right? And now
I
I know
love
I,
it.
I can refer people to you, and we can learn. I can get better, you can get better. Those things. So on a global scale, it's great that we're putting those voices out, but just on a personal level, I learned so much from conversations like this, like even what you're saying about silence earlier, like, if you don't hear anything from me, you're doing great, keep moving. Like I wrote that down. Like that's a great takeaway for me personally. So we all benefit from these conversations. So thank you.
Thank you.